What is going on, my Super Sandwiches? Rhymestyle here, and today I'm bringing my top 10 things that Dragon Ball Super does wrong compared to Dragon Ball Z. And in case you missed my video last week where I talked about top 10 things that did good, I will link it in the description below. Now before I start, this is all my opinion. This is not fact. I'm just stating my opinion based on observing the series so far. Not necessarily what I dislike, but what I think could have been done better, essentially, if that makes sense. So it's not that I'm hating on the show, because there's always going to be someone in the comments saying, oh my god, I can't believe you said this. It's just me stating my opinion, based in comparing it to the original Dragon Ball Z series as well as Dragon Ball, and then kind of comparing and contrasting how Dragon Ball Super is doing thus far. So without further ado, let's talk about the 10 things that I think Dragon Ball Super does wrong. Without any specific order, the first thing that they did wrong is the fact that they did not introduce Broly again. I mean, Broly is the one true god, and he should be in the series. I'm just kidding. Totally kidding. Just joking. Don't mind me. The first thing that they didn't do right in the Dragon Ball Super series, or I guess did wrong, is the fact that they redid the movies into anime arcs. Now, I get the reason why they did it. They wanted to basically make sure that the anime flows well, and if they had two movies and then had an anime arc, it would just be kind of awkward. But at the same time, it was very unnecessary in basically having us to sit through the two movies that we've already seen in the format of anime, where things were kind of up and down. It just didn't feel as exciting. I mean, I remember watching Dragon Ball Z Battle of Gods and Resurrection F the first time, how excited I was to see everything that was going on. Battle of Gods introduced a brand new story. They gave us Beerus and Whis. In Resurrection F, they brought back one of the most greatest anime villains of all time, Frieza, and it was just all around exciting. And then all of a sudden, we had to sit through it again. And not necessarily that it was a bad thing, because certain things were done better in the anime as opposed to the movie. It would have just been a lot more exciting to experience a brand new adventure in the anime format. And because of that, the first thing on my list is the fact that they made us rewatch the movies in anime format. The second thing on my list is some content that they added extra towards the anime felt a little forced. And what I mean by forced is, looking back, for example, in the Resurrection F arc, they added Ginyu coming back. And they build up Ginyu for 2 episodes, and you're thinking, oh my god, this is going to be epic. Ginyu is going to fight the Z fighters while Goku and Vegeta focus on fighting Frieza. It was going to be epic. And then, after hyping up Ginyu for 2 episodes, Vegeta shows up and immediately kills him. It just felt kind of dull. On top of that, they also added Goten and Trunks, and you're thinking, oh my god, Goten and Trunks are actually fighting in this. And then they don't. So the extra content, while they added to make it a little bit different than than the movie, I understand, but at the same time, the execution just didn't feel that great. And then even going back to the Battle of Gods arc, they had the whole Pilaf, for example, the Pilaf adventure, but again, it felt so forced and not as exciting to watch. So some stuff was great, you know, like seeing the filler in between stuff where we see Goku and Vegeta training, or the lighthearted stuff in episode 1 and 2, but other stuff like, you know, seeing Ginyu come back and Goten and Trunks being added, but then end up leading to nothing, just felt so forced, and because of that, that's number 2 on my list. Number 3, and number 3 can be actually debatable, because again, we still don't know what's going to happen in the Champa arc. At the time that I'm recording this, we're only 2 episodes into the new arc, so we don't know what's going to be new there. But so far, based off the Battle of Gods arc as well as the Resurrection F arc, no epic transformations. Now you're probably going to say, well, wait a minute, Rhymestyle, we got Super Saiyan God, we got Super Saiyan God, Super Saiyan with the blue hair. What do you mean there's no epic transformations? Well, what I mean by, if you compare it to Dragon Ball Z added so much epic transformations that it felt so exciting to watch the first time. You remember the first time Goku did Kaioken against Vegeta, or the first time he went Super Saiyan against Frieza, or even watching Frieza transform during the process of him fighting the Z fighters on Namek? All that stuff felt exciting. And then move fast forward again to the Cell Saga. We see Cell transforming through different stages to becoming perfect. And then even in the Buu Saga, we see Buu cycle through his different transformations, becoming more and more stronger. Every time a transformation was done in Dragon Ball Z, it felt so epic and dangerous. Whereas in Dragon Ball Super, it just feels kind of dull. I mean, Super Saiyan God with the red hair involved Goku holding hands, and the transformation just didn't feel that epic as the first time we saw Goku go Super Saiyan. And then in Resurrection F, we didn't even see the transformations for Super Saiyan Blue. They just kind of showed up. And of course, Golden Frieza shows up, and he's just golden. So the transformations haven't felt that epic, and there was no point in Dragon Ball Super where I felt like, oh my god, that's so incredible, look at that! Whereas opposed to watching Dragon Ball Z, every single transformation that we saw in the original series just felt like you felt it, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say here. There was no real emotion behind it, if that makes sense. So, does that make sense, actually? So, that's kind of what I want to say about that. That transformations didn't feel as epic as they did in Dragon Ball Z. But again, it kind of sucks, because comparing it to Dragon Ball Z, there's always going to be things that aren't going to be done better. So, because our standards are already as high as it is with DBZ. So, that makes sense. Number 4 on my list is that Dragon Ball Super is the Goku and Vegeta story. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because Goku and Vegeta are probably easily the top, I guess, favorite characters from the Dragon Ball world. What I mean by that is the fact that they don't really focus on anybody else from the Z fighters. Now, I get it. Dragon Ball Super is mostly about the story of Goku, Vegeta, Whis, and Beerus, and now I can say Champa and Varus as well. But at the same time, we grew up under, other characters. Like, looking at Dragon Ball, we see Goku meet with Bulma, and then from there we see Goku develop as the beast that he is, from fighting the Red Ribbon Army to defeating Piccolo to, you know, taking to the Dragon Ball Z world where more characters are introduced. We see Gohan, you know, we get more of, you know, people like Krillin, Tien, Piccolo now it's a good guy. There's a lot of amazingness that we see with the other characters in Dragon Ball Z. And now when we get to Dragon Ball Super, it's like everybody gets abandoned. This is all about Goku and Vegeta, who are just so much more strong than anybody else. And basically, if you're a fan of Piccolo or Gohan or anybody else, you're just kind of like, bruh, Toriyama, where's my character? Why can't you make my character better? Why you make Gohan lose like a little bitch against Frieza? Like, things like that. And I would love to see more of those other characters do more in the series. Now again, we don't really know what's going to happen in the Champa arc yet. It's a little too early to tell. But so far, based off of the Resurrection F arc and Battle of Gods, this has been mostly focused around Goku and Vegeta. And that's kind of a con, I should say. But again, it's not going to be a bad thing because Goku and Vegeta are awesome. And I get why, if you're to focus on a small group of characters, why Goku and Vegeta were chosen for this. Number 5 on my list are the consistent inconsistencies. Consistent inconsistencies, that's funny. It's funny, at this point, every time an inconsistency happens, it's like, okay, here's another one. I don't even care at this point anymore. There's so much unexplained stuff in Super that just kind of bothers. It doesn't bother every fan, but like the hardcore fans who pay attention to every little detail, to the timelines and all that stuff, will be bugged about. In my case, I want to know what the hell time period this is. In between, you know, Resurrection F and Battle of Gods, did a year pass? Did 8 months pass? I mean, we see that, you know, Pan was born, but we don't know how much time passed, you know, prior to the Battle of Gods event. In the original movie, it said 5 years passed, but now we don't really know how much time passed because it doesn't make much sense. On top of that, you know, Pan is supposed to be like 8 towards the end of, you know, Dragon Ball Z. There's so much unexplained stuff that just kind of like makes the super hardcore fan go crazy. Now, I get it. If you're watching the series for the first time or you're just a casual fan, you might not even notice. But again, if you're a big fan like myself, you know, you're probably trying to figure out, you're exploding inside your brain trying to figure out what time period it is, what, you know, how much time passed between the death of Frieza and this new tournament that's happening, and all the stuff that just kind of is unexplained, and it's always going to be unexplained because if you know Toriyama, he tends to leave a lot of plot holes open in the story. It's just something that he's always done. So I really wish they would explain that better, but you know, it is what it is. Number 6 on my list, and this isn't really Dragon Ball Super's fault, but more Toei, or aimed at Toei. There is no simulcast available for one of the biggest anime franchises of all time, Dragon Ball. I mean, Dragon Ball was probably one of the most successful first original anime that came out to the West after, you know, already blown up in Japan. And I feel like at this point, everybody knows what Dragon Ball is. Whether you're a fan or not, you should know what Dragon Ball is. And with that said, something as massive as Dragon Ball should have had a simulcast since day one. And because Toei is basically fighting the internet and, you know, refusing to allow people to simulcast it or whatever the deal is, it leads to piracy, it leads to bad fan subs, it leads to questions and mistranslations and all kinds of issues. Like, come on, Toei. You guys should have been on your feet with this one. It should have been simulcasted since day one, and by pretty much the time it's done airing in Japan, it should be available in the rest of the world. Like, this is a no-brainer. But then again, I don't know what the deal is. I heard many things, whether they're trying to get a TV deal or whatever it is, it's still a mishap, and because of that, that's number 6 on my list. Number 7 on my list is the inconsistency between the manga and the anime, and what I mean by that is there's no real, I guess, quote-unquote, canon story to Dragon Ball Super. Now, looking at Dragon Ball when we grew up, Toriyama basically created a story of Dragon Ball, which was a 42-volume story that spanned from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z. And basically what happened then was Toei took that, you know, Bible of Dragon Ball and turned it into an anime. Like, we grew up watching that. Well, with Dragon Ball Super, there's no real, I guess, blueprint or something I should say to what Dragon Ball Super actually is. The manga and anime are completely different. Well, I would say completely different. They're for the most part the same, but they're different in terms of like things that happen. So, for example, in the manga, Kibito and Kibito Kai is split into Shin and Kibito already, but that hasn't happened yet in the anime. On top of that, Champa showed up way early in the manga as opposed to the anime. There's a bunch of small key details that don't really do much different to the story that happen differently in both, which just bother me. I mean, again, the story for the most part is still the same. You know, Beerus shows up, he fights the Z Fighters, he fights Goku, and that's it. The Frieza saga didn't even get a manga adaptation to Dragon Ball Super. What they did is they skipped it because Toritaro had already done it in the past and they didn't want to do it again. But now there's questions left in that because the anime was vastly different from what was originally shown in the movie. So, see what I mean? It's confusing, and that's a big problem with this. Like, I wish that there was an actual blueprint that basically Toriyama worked on himself. Maybe he should work more closer with Toritaro to be accurate on that, and the manga could be like the Bible, and then the anime could come from that. But because there's a lot of confusion with that, and that's why it's number 7 on my list. Number 8 on my list is the lack of seriousness. There's no real danger. Now I know what you're thinking. Rhymestyle, are you crazy? Beerus is a god of destruction who threatens basically the existence of the galaxy right now. What do you mean there's no danger? What I mean by there's no danger is if you look at Dragon Ball Z, and again, we're going back and comparing to the original series that we grew up watching. Well, not original, Dragon Ball is the original series, but I'm talking about Dragon Ball Z. There was always a sense of seriousness and danger throughout the series. I mean, you know, the Saiyans show up, craziness. Like, you're kind of intense. Like, leading up those intense moments when they show up and fight, it was crazy. Then we go to freaking Planet Namek, and now Frieza's there. He's this incredibly powerful villain, and we're waiting for basically Goku to race to Planet Namek to save Gohan and Krillin and Bulma. It's like there's that sense of seriousness that happens throughout the series. You know, Cell comes in, he's so powerful, he basically makes them train to fight him in a tournament. And of course we have Boo, who is very gentle, but at the same time turns into this evil, crazy maniac that destroys the Earth in a blink of an eye. Like, there's always a sense of seriousness and danger that happens in Dragon Ball Z. Whereas in Dragon Ball Super, I don't know, Toei is just trying to be more, I guess, gentle and lighthearted, but there's like no real sense of danger, even though there's the God of Destruction on planet Earth right now threatening to blow up everything. Like, the whole time you're watching, you knew that Beerus wouldn't exactly do it. Now, granted, you can also say that Frieza destroyed the Earth like it was nothing, but with Frieza, we knew he was going to lose before he even showed up. Like, that was perfectly set up to, oh, this is going to be one of those cliche moments where basically Frieza shows up stronger, but he still gets defeated by Goku and Vegeta somehow because of some weakness, which is exactly what happens. Now, again, we don't know what's going to happen in the Champa arc just quite yet, but based off the first two arcs, it just doesn't feel that dangerous. It's just like, oh, someone's going to save that woman, I know it. And even when Goku lost, which is very unpredictable against Beerus, nothing really happened. Like, he blew up a little rock afterwards, and that was kind of his way to punishing Earth. So that's, I mean, it's like no real sense of danger that we got with Dragon Ball Z. Something that kept us in the, you know, on the edge of our seats, and something that's what I really wish would happen in Dragon Ball Super at some point. But who knows? We might get something crazy in the Champa arc. For all we know, there's a crazy story that's going to happen with that, and if that happens, then great. But for now, I'm basing this solely off of the Battle of Gods and Resurrection F arc. Number 9 on my list, and this is going to be very questionable, but number 9 is the questionable originality question mark. And what I mean by that is if you compare it to Dragon Ball Z, and again, this is going to be a curse throughout the entire span of Dragon Ball Super, is we're always going to compare it to XYZ that happened in DBZ. The questionable originality is my number 9 thing. And what I mean by that is if you compare the originality of DBZ to DBS, there's a vast difference. I mean, in Dragon Ball Z, in the first saga, we introduced the fact that Goku is an alien. He ends up dying, and then, you know, more Saiyans show up. We go to Planet Namek. We got, you know, this android that shows up from the future, and then we got a piece of bubblegum that's basically a crazy maniac that destroys everything and is super powerful. Boo, in case you didn't know what I'm talking about. There was a lot of sense of originality that Toriyama had a lot of fun with when it came down to writing. But then in Dragon Ball Super, again, granted, the disadvantage is the fact that we're only 2 arcs into it, there's nothing really new that's happening. I mean, for starters, we had Frieza come back. Like, you couldn't come out with a better villain. I mean, granted, I love Frieza. I was a big fan of Resurrection F. But at the same time, if you really think about it, Frieza coming back isn't exactly that original. On top of that, he comes back boasting a new form, and it was just a golden form. On top of that, speaking of new forms, Super Saiyan God and Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan was just a color palette switch for both Goku and Vegeta. Goku had red hair and blue hair, and then Vegeta comes out with blue hair. There's nothing really different about it. And on top of that, looking into the Champa arc, again, granted, we don't know what's going to happen in that arc just quite yet. They're setting up essentially a tournament, which has always happened in the Dragon Ball series. So there's no real crazy originality there, but at the same time, you could also argue, well, yeah, there is. There's new universes now. You have more powerful entities. There's actual gods. So this one's very questionable, but honestly, to me, looking at Dragon Ball Z, it was a lot more original, and the fact that this is going to be the big curse here is there's always coming in comparison to DBZ, and because of that, I feel like Dragon Ball Super is going to lack in that department. Again, not hating on Dragon Ball Super, it's still a lot of fun and exciting to watch, but at the same time, DBZ so far has or is a lot more original than Dragon Ball Super is, and that's just it is what it is. And finally, last but not least, of course I gotta talk about it, the art/animation is iffy at times. Now, obviously, not every single episode is awful. There's certain parts of the Super series which looks absolutely incredible. For example, seeing Beerus vs. Goku, that fight was A1. They did a really great job, and they pulled out basically their best in the animation team to draw those episodes together and animate them. But then every now and then, you get people who do episode 5, or you'll do certain parts in the Resurrection F arc where Frieza literally looks like a toe, and you're probably wondering, like, what the hell happened here, Toei? Did you cut the budget? This is Dragon Ball. You can't ruin Dragon Ball for us. Now, we all agree here that Dragon Ball should have been treated a lot better when it comes down to animation, but ultimately, it didn't ruin the series completely for me. Now, I know some of you guys were completely pissed to the point where you dropped watching the show because the animation was quote-unquote bad. Again, it's all matters of opinions here. I'm not going to say it was awful, but it wasn't great. It could have been a lot better. So I'm going to leave it at that. I mean, when it comes to animation, we had many conversations about this. I've made several videos about it. So I'm not going to go really in depth about it, but all I will say is it could have been better at certain times, but at the same time, other episodes were really, really great. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But that just about wraps up my top 10 things that Dragon Ball Super has done wrong so far in the series. Now, again, let me know that this is just my opinion. There's no facts stated in this. This is just me observing the series so far compared to Dragon Ball Z and kind of breaking down what I think. And I love Dragon Ball Super. I understand that. I watch it every single week. I'm going to enjoy it until the end. And then afterwards, when the series ends, I'm still probably going to watch it. But at the same time, it's not perfect. And I kind of wanted to put that together to just kind of compare it to my top 10 things that Dragon Ball Super has done right that I did last week. Again, if you want to see that video, it is linked in the description below. But I do want to hear from you guys as well. So what are some of the things that you saw wrong, quote unquote wrong, it's an opinion here, in Dragon Ball Super? Commented below. Ultimately though, I'm just super excited that Dragon Ball is back. I can't wait to see what the Champa arc brings us and what craziness Toriyama has in store for us. But again, comparing the Dragon Ball Super that we saw so far and basically how we got the two movies rehashed in the anime formats, it was a questionable choice. So that is what I think. But anyways, again, I want to hear from you guys. So what did Dragon Ball Super do wrong? Feel free to comment it below. But other than that, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, leave a like rating below. And I will see all your amazing Super Sandwiches next Sunday for the next I guess tomorrow, for the next exciting episode of Dragon Ball Super. And let's see what Champa arc brings us. Hopefully, we get a lot more action that we grew up watching with the original Dragon Ball Z series. But then again, if not, I'm just excited Dragon Ball's back. So let's see what Toriyama brings us. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the rest of the day. My name is Rhymestyle, and I will see all your awesome Super Sandwiches in the comment section below. Peace.